Hello guys, good afternoon. You are welcome to my YouTube channel, the Explicit Tutorials. As you all know, my name is Mr. Joseph. Please, as you are watching this video, endeavor to subscribe, like, share, and comment. In today's video, I shall be taking taxonomic classification. Now, what do you understand by this word? That is taxonomic, which is adjective. Now, taxonomy is from two Greek words. We have taxis, meaning what? Arrangements. Alright, taxis meaning arrangement, and nomos meaning what? Law. Alright, so taxonomy was coined from two words: taxis, arrangements; nomos, law. Alright, so it's just like a type of classification in which different organisms are arranged based on their morphological and physiological characteristics. When organisms are grouped based on the noticeable features or based on what their internal organs and their functions, we call that word taxonomy. The systematic way of classifying an organism into a particular category is called what? Taxonomy. Now, the word taxonomy was first defined in its French form. Alright, the term taxonomy was first defined in its French form by de Candolle in year 1813. Right, this was the first person that first defined taxonomy. All right, now we have Murray in year 1871 defined taxonomy as a theory and practice. Define taxonomy as what? A theory and practice of classification of organisms. Alright, May, I don't know, whatever, in year 1871 defined taxonomy as a theory and practice of classification of what? Living organisms. In our previous class, I told us that species are the fundamental unit of what? Classification. They are the fundamental unit of what? Taxonomy, systematics. So which means that outside species, taxonomy, whatever, will not be in existence, right? Scientists will not be able to carry out any scientific research. But in the presence of species, which are the fundamental units, they are able to be categorized or classified into their respective groups. All right, so the theory and practice of classifying organisms stated by this is called what? Taxonomy. So in year 1869, Simpson defined taxonomy, all right, as a theoretical study of classification. I'm writing it on the board for a better understanding. Simpson in 1861 defined taxonomy as a theoretical study of classification, including their basis, rules, procedures, and principles. Good. Now, what this law means is, before an organism is classified, you must follow certain rules. Look at, initially we said that taxonomy was coined from two Greek words, Tazik's Arrangement Norms law. For an organism to be classified, there is a certain law you must follow. There's what we call international code of international code of Congress of Zoology. All right. Now, before an organism is classified, before a zoologist classifies an organism, you must follow the general principle or the operational principle as adopted in the 15th international meeting. All right, that is the principles that are being used to classify living organisms by zoologists is the one adopted in the 15th international Congress of the meeting they had on the 15th. All right, like you say, 15th international meeting of Congress of Zoology. Yeah. So the principle with which organisms are classified is usually that of 15th international meeting of Congress of Zoology. Principles must be obeyed, must be adhered to in order to classify living organisms. All right, you have what is it called? We have several general principles before an organism is classified. Okay, that is for that. That will be in another class. But just take note that Simpson defined taxonomy as a theoretical study of classification, including their basis, rules, procedures, and principles. Don't forget that. Okay. Now, Greg in year 1954 said that organisms are the subjects of classification, and subjects. So organisms are the subject of classification, and the subjects is taxonomy. All right. So Greg in year 1954 said that organisms are the subject of classification, and the subject is taxonomy. That was what Greg said in year 1954. So which means that for an organism, that is for there to be classification, organisms must form the subject, must be the basic, or must be the central reason of classifying. You cannot just classify anything. Species have to be present, just as I said, that species are the fundamental unit of classification. Do not forget that. Now, in classification, there are different procedures. All right, that is in taxonomy. We have one called description. We have description. So we have naming. 3, we have recognition. 4, we have comparison, and definition of taxa. 5, genetic variation. 6, identification of specimens, and 7, defining taxa in the ecosystem. Now, so these are the various, these are the 7 steps in taxonomic what? Classification, description, naming, recognition, comparison, and what? Definition of taxa. Taxa here means organisms. All right, taxon is organism. Taxa is plural, which is organisms. Then taxon is singular, which is organism. Now we have genetic variation, identification of specimens, and defining taxa in the complete what? Ecosystem. So these are the 5. These are the 7 steps in taxonomic what? Classification. But to me, this thing is somehow not it's not quite arranged, but this is how it is. But to me, I have an opposition. All right, you cannot describe what you haven't recognized. You cannot describe what you have not what recognized. I believe recognition should be the first step. Recognition. After recognition, you now have a description. After description, you now have what? Naming. All right, to me, you have recognition, description, and what? Naming. All right. I don't know. That is what I think of, but just take note. So these are the 7 steps in taxonomic what? Classification. Now we have different forms. Let me just call it forms of taxonomy. We have different forms. We have different forms of taxonomy. All right. Look at, we have number 1, chemotaxonomy. I'll call it chemical taxonomy. All right. Number 2, we also have this called Cytotaxonomy. We now have number 3, molecular taxonomy. Now, we now have different forms of classifications. Our astericate, we have biological classification. You have 3, you have artificial classification. You have natural classification. So these are the different forms of taxonomy and what? Classifications. Now this first one, which is what? Chemotaxonomy or chemical taxonomy. This is, okay, in this type of taxonomy, plants are categorized or are classified based on what? The distribution or the constituents of what? Chemical substances. Taxonomy is a form of classification in which plants are classified based on their chemical distribution and what? Constituents. I take it again. Chemical taxonomy is a form of classification in which plants are categorized or classified based on their distribution and constituents of what? Their chemical compounds. For example, we have a xanthophyll. All right, we have chlorophyll. Yes, we have chlorophyll. We now also have carotenoid. We have carotenoid. We have melanin. Yes, I'm bringing in melanin for a reason. And I'll also add chromatopause. Okay. Now, though I said this chemotaxonomy is not just restricted to plants alone. It is both in plants and what? Animals. The process whereby the chemical constituents of an organism is classified, you call it what? Chemotaxonomy or chemical what? Taxonomy. Now, classification of xanthophyll, carotenoid, chlorophyll, melanin, and chromatopause are under what? Chemical taxonomy. You know, xanthophyll is a pigment. Okay, xanthophyll, carotenoid, and chlorophyll are photosynthetic pigments present in plants. Xanthophyll, for example, is present in bacteria and fungus. They use it for what? Photosynthesis. Now, carotenoid is a form of xanthophyll that gives carrots its color, making it to appear what? Orange. So which means that carotenoid could be in the form of red, orange, and what? Yellow. So these are the three colors that the carotenoid can actually what? Occur. Now, the classification of these chemical pigments is called what? Chemotaxonomy. Of course, chlorophyll is that pigment found in the chloroplast that traps sunlight in the form of what? Solar energy. Is then converted to what? Chemical energy for what? Photosynthesis. Melanin, of course, is a dark pigment that gives the skin its what? Color. Then chromatopause are the pigment, the chemical pigment present in reptiles like chameleon. What is the function of this chromatopause? It gives it they give the chameleon the ability to change what? Colors. Chromatopause, melanin, carotenoid, xanthophyll, chlorophyll, and whatever, they are under what? Chemotaxonomy. Apart from what I've just mentioned, now there are other constituents in plants, such as the ergosterol present in fungi is also under chemotaxonomy. Alkaloid, resin mucilage, tannin, calcium oxalate, glycoside. All of these are under chemotaxonomy. These are the minor waste present in what? Plant. So these are under what? Chemotaxonomy. Take note of that. What about cytotaxonomy? Cytotaxonomy is a system of classification in which the chromosomes number in which chromosomes are classified based on their distribution, structure, number, and what? Size. When chromosomes are classified based on their distribution, number, size, shape, you call it what? Cytotaxonomy. Okay. Take for example, I think good. Under the same chemotaxonomy, all right, I'll bring in gram-negative bacteria and gram-positive bacteria. So the classification of peptidoglycan in the cell wall of these two groups of bacteria is under chemotaxonomy. You know, gram-positive bacteria, they have thick thick cell wall called what? Peptidoglycan. So which means that peptidoglycan is actually conspicuous in the gram-positive what? Bacteria. But in the gram-negative bacteria, they do not have what? Well-formed peptidoglycan. So bacteria based on peptidoglycan is another example of what? Chemotaxonomy. Then I've given us the meaning of cytotaxonomy. I said it is the classification of chromosomes based on number, shape, and size, and distribution. Okay, for example, the study of nuclear division. In plants and animals falls under what? Cytotaxonomy. All right. Genetics, the study of genetics falls on, that is under cytotaxonomy. Which one again? The nuclear constituent or the nuclear excuse me, the nuclear constituent or characteristics of organisms is under what? Cytotaxonomy. All right, nuclear constituent. Then that is chromosomes number in organisms. The study of the chromosomes number in different organisms is under what? Cytotaxonomy. Then the study of how the chromosomes the chromosomes, let me say this, the chromosomes are stained using what is called what? G band and C band. They're actually stains used to stain chromosomes. Therefore, the study of G band and C band are under what? Is under cytotaxonomy. Alright, is there another one? Mitotic division and meiotic division, they are under cytotaxonomy. Please take note of that. They now have molecular taxonomy. Molecular taxonomy is similar to chemotaxonomy in the sense that the both of them study the chemical constituents of an organism. All right, the chemical constituent present in an organism is actually studied using what? Molecular taxonomy. For example, now the amino acids, the chains of amino acids. The amino acids are actually monomers of proteins. So the study of the various chains of amino acid is under what? Molecular taxonomy. It's under molecular taxonomy. You now have biological classification. Good. I'm going to write this on the board. Very, very important. Chemical classification, that is biological classification. Please follow this bit by bit. You will understand it better. Now, what is the meaning of biological classification? Biological classification. I think let me rub off this one, please. Let me rub off this one. Oh. It's okay. Biological classification can be defined as a science of categorizing, organizing, grouping. It is defined as a science of categorizing, organizing, and grouping organisms into hierarchical groups. Based on what criteria? Based on evolutionary similarities. All right, similarities, differences, and relationship. All right, relationship. I'll continue. It provides a systemic framework. It provides a systemic framework for scientists to classify the vast organisms, the vast organisms or diversity of life on earth allowing scientists to study and understand their evolutionary and historical differences, similarities, and relationships. Good. So this is a complete definition of what? Biological classification. I'll take it again. Is defined as a science of categorizing, organizing, and grouping organisms into hierarchical what? Groups based on evolutionary similarities. What do they have in common? Differences and what? Relationship. It provides a systemic framework. It provides what? A systemic framework for scientists to classify the vast organisms or diversity of life on Earth, allowing scientists to study and understand, giving a comprehensive information on their evolutionary and historical what? Differences, similarities, and what? Relationship. Now, biological classification, organisms. The criteria are similarities, differences, and what? Relationships. Good. Now, if you are stating what it is without including hierarchical groups, or you can say, okay, let me put it again. Biological classification can be defined as the science of categorizing, organizing, and grouping organisms in the form of what? Hierarchy. If you don't want to use this one, you can put it in the form of what? Hierarchy, based on these criteria. Now, what is the importance? What is the importance of biological classification? Is that it provides systemic what? Systemic framework for scientists to classify the vast organisms or diversity of life on Earth. All right. Secondly, it also enhances scientists to study and understand their evolutionary what? Evolutionary and historical differences, similarities, and what? Relationship. So this is the complete definition of what? Biological classification. Now we've done the meaning of this guy. Now, what are some instances you can actually use to tell yourself that yes, I really understood this topic? Now, the grouping of organisms, or the grouping of blood group, such as A, B, and O is under what? Biological classification. Now, birds that sing, singing birds that sing, they are called what? Passeriforms, singing birds. So these are under what? Biological what? Classification. And secondly, sibling species. Sibling what? Species. The classification of sibling species, passeriforms, blood group are some instances of what? Biological classification. I believe it is clear enough. Very, very important. Now, in biological classification, it is very important we bring in our what's it called now? Linear or Carolus Linus hierarchical what? Description. How organisms are actually classified. For example, now if I were to classify maybe Echinococcus granulosus. All right, if I were to classify Echinococcus granulosus based on the hierarchical classification of organisms, you know what to do. I believe that Kingdom, Animalia, all right, Kingdom, Animalia, Phylum, Platyhelminthes, class, Cyclophilidia, this recording, excuse me, Cyclophilidia, order, you have order as, okay, we have Kingdom, Animalia, phylum, oh, no. This is wrong. Class is not Cyclophilidia. Class is Cestoda. Class Cestoda. Order Cyclophilidia. Family Ctenidae. Genus Echinococcus. Species granulosus. Then you now have subspecies sensu. So this is a subspecies, this is the species, and this is what? The general name. So this is the biological classification of Echinococcus granulosus sensu. So please take note of that. It is very, very important. Now please, in biological classification, before it is being made, evidence must be gotten from different fields. From different what? Fields. Such as field of genetics, all right, historical field, morphology, behavior. All right, so what I've just done is what? Biological classification. Sometimes before kingdom you see domain. All right, domain is also a part of what? Hierarchical classification of what? Living things. All right, the next one is what? Artificial classification. The process whereby organisms are classified based on form, size, and shapes is called what? Artificial classification. Which means that for organisms to be classified artificially, all right, external features play a lot of role in classifying organisms. The size, the shape, and the form, very, very important. You call them prominent features. Examples are red blood cell grouping, all right, based on habitats, based on what? Habitats, which could be land, water, soil, air, and even trees, arboreals. Now, based on flight, we have flightless birds and we have birds that can also fly. So these are the criteria with which organisms are classified artificially. Okay, the next one now is what? Natural classification. Natural what? Classification. Natural classification is a branch of science that has to do with classifying organisms by considering their prominence, or it is the art of classifying organisms by putting their prominent characteristics into what? Consideration, all right? Prominent criteria or prominent condition, all right, in order for these organisms to be classified. For example, now, anatomical structure, pathological form, all right, behavioral. So these are some of the criteria with which organisms are classified naturally. Okay, so this anatomical, all right, you know, anatomy is a branch of science that deals with the study of the internal structures of an organism. When an organism is dissected, the ability to study the various organs inside the organism is called what? Anatomy. All right, the study of diseases caused by organism is called what? Pathology. All right, so that is for that. I believe is there any other one? Yes, for surreal organisms that live in the burrows, organisms that burrow are classified under natural classification. I think historical criterion is also among this natural classification. Now we have done different types of taxonomies, different types of classifications. Now, what are the importance of taxonomy? What role do they play in biology? What is its significance in the world of biology? Or what are the importance, or what are the significance of taxonomy? One, you can say it provides vivid picture of organisms. It provides vivid pictures of organisms existing in nature. Two, all right, it is also indispensable. When something is indispensable, you cannot do without such a thing. You say it is indispensable in the study of economically and medically important organisms. Important what? Organisms. Number three, taxonomy also provides the needed information needed information. It also provides the needed information in the branch of what? Biology. Number 5, it also provides exclusive information. It also provides exclusive information in exclusive information in, or should I say, it provides exclusive information in biology, permitting reconstruction and phylogeny of life. Just as you have it to be biogeography. All right. Number five, which one have I not said so far? Okay, it provides vivid, existing medical important needed information in the branch of biology. All right, it also exposes evolutionary phenomenon. Let me use plural now. Phenomenon for causal studies by scientists. That is, it helps in exposing organisms or other meaningful things which have not been classified by scientists. That is, it exposes new phenomenal, new scientific organisms or research that most scientists have not worked on. So it exposes them all. Number 6, it provides information in order to give a clear explanation to evolutionary biochemistry, ecology, ethology, immunology, genetics, and historical geography. So these are the importance or significance of what? Taxonomy. So at this point, we call it a day. Thanks for watching. Do have a wonderful day.